Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. I'm big into alliteration and I love P words. So, P is for pivot is the title of this talk. But really, P is this pivot is all about just like what's going on. The pandemic kind of body slammed a whole bunch of us. What we know is that 25% of women business owners were put out of business during the pandemic, and 40% of African American businesses and other minority businesses were put out of business. So this pandemic spared no one. But I always say every kick is a boost. So I'm so excited to be here with you guys today to talk about how you can turn your pivot into profit, right? So I'm going to do this to you all afternoon. So just get ready. But first, before we jump in, I just want to give you a little bit of background about me. I have been in business over 22 years. I'm the best-selling author of a book called Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. The latest edition just came out last month, so go check that out. I'm an international keynote speaker, a small business influencer, and I am a social media pioneer. I was one of the earliest people to use social media to educate and engage small business owners. I'm also the creator of Small Biz Lady University, and I host the Small Biz Chat podcast. In addition to that, I own a marketing consulting firm, Quintessence Group, and we work with Fortune 500 brands who target the small business market. Some of my clients include Visa, FedEx, Google, HP, American Express, and Verizon, to name a few. All right, so let's talk about what the pandemic did. Number one, it changed the way people buy, right? So social media has now become the number one sales channel because everyone's spending so much more time on social media. Video has emerged as the number one way to engage, and YouTube and Facebook dominate consumer marketing. When it comes to B2B, though, LinkedIn is still king. But here's an interesting note for you guys to think about. 46% of B2B decision makers are now between the ages of 18 and 34. So you have to know how to engage and communicate with people the way they want to be communicated with. So let's talk about why is online marketing so dominant? Well, number one, there's 4.2 billion people on the internet. So that creates an amazing opportunity if you know how to reach your best target leads. The other thing about online marketing is it's cheaper than traditional marketing and it's measurable. So now, what does that mean to you? Listen, 90%, 97% of all interaction is digital. And so what you're going to have to do in order to be successful with online marketing success is really understand these four pillars. And the four pillars start with your website, content, social media, and email marketing. And so let me just quickly walk you through this because this is my personal secret formula for online marketing. But it really starts with your website is your number one sales tool. You really do have to make sure that your website is good, that it downloads quickly from any kind of device, and that people know why they're there within 3 seconds of getting there because they'll leave. You also want to make sure that on your website, you've got 2 or 3 ways to capture people's email addresses. Then what are you going to update your website with? Content, right? And what are you going to use? How are you going to promote your content? Social media. Now, do you need to be doing all 5 or 6 major social media sites? No, you probably need to be doing 1 or 2, and they need to be the 1 or 2 where your best target customer is spending most of their time online. And then you got to use email because email is the number one follow-up system for any sales process. Because guys, the first time somebody sees your offer, they're not likely to buy. So how are you going to build that relationship, earn that trust? It's with email. So let's talk about the other top marketing channels. So we already talked about website. You guys understand what social media is about because the whole point of using social media, guys, and content is to drive traffic back to your website. That's why website is on the top of the list. Certainly email is the best method of direct response marketing, and it's more personalized even than social media because you put stuff out there on social media, you don't know if people are absorbing it or not. Email, you know whether or not someone opens it or not. And then you have paid ads and word of mouth referrals. And we know that turning your happy customers into advocates for your brand is the holy grail. It's what we all want. And so that's why these things tick down in this order. But there's a lot that goes into figuring out how to do these 6 things well. And I'm going to talk to you guys about as much of it as I can in the next 45 minutes. All right. So do you need a new social marketing strategy? Yes, no, maybe. Let's just say probably, right? So let's jump into how do you go about creating a new digital marketing strategy? Well, number one, is it time for you to create a new offer? When's the last time you put out something new? Or do you need to bundle some stuff together? Do you need to pivot your business model? Do you have a source of recurring revenue? Are you out here chasing contracts over and over? Or do you have a system in place to get repeat business from your existing customers? Do you have an email list? How are you using your email list? I had someone tell me the other day that every name on your email list is worth $1. So if you have a 10,000 person list, that's $10,000. But if they bought from you, the value of a person on the email list is worth at least $15. So you gotta learn how to use email effectively. And then who is your best target customer? Is it still who it was pre-pandemic, or have you emerged with a new best target customer? And then this might be the most important thing. Do you have a powerful, unique value proposition? In other words, do you have something about your business that is not easily duplicatable by your competition? Very important for you to figure out right now as you're working on that pivot. So now let's talk about what I call the 6 P's of social selling. The first P is problem. What problem are you solving? People don't buy products and services, they buy solutions. So make sure you're clear about what your customer's problem is, because just like you, your customer's problem might have changed since the pandemic started. So you want to make sure that you're plugged in and that you really know what your customer's dealing with. Then you've got to figure out your people. Who are you targeting online? And are you targeting different people on different platforms? But you got to get real specific about who you're targeting. And I don't mean basic demographic information, female, married, suburban, educated. I don't mean that. I mean their psychographic information. What are their fears? What are their aspirations? Where do they consume information? And what inspires them? That's what you want to know, because once you get that information, you can create marketing messages that really connect with them. And that's really what you want. The best emails, you guys, sound like they're written by a friend to a friend. Then you've got to figure out your pitch. What is your offer or your call to action? You got to make sure that these are clear, crisp, and concise. You also want to look at platform. What social media platforms are you going to use to drive leads? We've already talked about this, but it doesn't need to be more than 1 or 2. I built a huge brand for myself as the small biz lady just using Twitter. And we focused just on Twitter for 2 years before I even touched other platforms. And that's the reason why I've been able to be successful, because I owned a lane on a specific platform. And then you got to think about persistence. Do not give up. Yes, it's hard. That's okay. Do not give up. Your audience will eventually find you if you are consistent with your content. And then pedestrians, the last P. How will you drive traffic? What are your ways that you're going to drive traffic? Are you going to do webinars? Are you going to do paid ads? Are you going to figure out a quiz marketing program, chatbots? What are you going to do to drive traffic to your offers or to your website? Because your offer might be a landing page on your website, or it could just be content on your website. But you got to figure out, how are you driving traffic? So now let's talk about social selling and really what it is. Really, it's about figuring out how to engage with your prospects and customers online. It's a much softer sales approach. So it's not about asking for the sale. It's about give to get, and it's about building a long-term, deep relationship. That's what social selling is. But now, why do you need perhaps a new social media marketing strategy? Well, maybe your target audience isn't clear. Maybe you don't have a content strategy, or maybe you haven't updated your content strategy in a while. See, the thing you have to think about with content is that people consume information all kinds of ways. Some people like to read, some people like to listen, some people like to watch. And so you want to make sure that you have a content strategy that touches people all the different ways. And then you also want to make sure that you're competing effectively against your competitors. Are you even paying attention to what your competitors are doing? And if you don't have a clear value proposition, you're dead in the water, because customers have too many options now. We are in a customer-centric economy. So you really do have to make sure that you have a value proposition. And it doesn't have to be something huge. It literally could be your unboxing experience when you ship something to somebody. It could be how you onboard new customers. It could be that you throw a couple of pieces of candy in your bag when you ship something. But you need to think about how you add value, because that is really what it comes down to. And then maybe you're producing tons of content and seeing no engagement. That's another reason why it might be time to tweak your social strategy. And then you don't have a social media team, you're doing everything yourself. That's another reason why it might be time for a different approach. So now, why is social selling essential? Well, because businesses struggle to generate leads in general. Cold calling takes up to 8 calls to reach a prospect who then often doesn't want to talk to you. And honestly, 90% of people never respond to cold calls. So you got to figure out, how are you going to reach people? So here's some of the key benefits of social selling. Number one, you can reach targets much faster. You can establish deeper relationships. You can increase your sales results. You can increase your close ratio. You can generate even more leads into the top of your funnel. And really, you can shorten your sales cycle. So now, when it comes to social media marketing, you really have to pull all of these elements together. And so it goes back to the original graphic that I showed you with website, content, social media, and email. Look at how it translates when you start thinking about building social media relationships. Number one, you have to connect with people. And then you have to communicate with them. It's not just about collecting friends and followers. You have to communicate with them. And what are you communicating to them? Compelling content. And how often do you have to do that? Consistently. And once you do it consistently, you become a trusted member of the community. And then and only then can you turn that relationship into commerce. Let me tell you what the biggest mistake that I see people making in social media marketing. It is premature selling. The minute somebody connects with you on LinkedIn, if 2 seconds later they're pitching you what they do, that's crazy. I don't know you. I don't care what you do. I mean, so that's the thing. You don't want to be that person that somebody's figuring out how to unconnect from. You want to take the time to build the relationship, build some trust, so that you can earn the right to pitch them. You should not just be pitching people because you now suddenly have a new connection. That is just a mistake, and that's a great way to damage your brand. So now, how do you choose the right platform to be on? Well, I thought it would be helpful just to give you guys some numbers so that you understand who the big boys are and what's really resonating. These are the top 6. Now, I know that TikTok is a huge rage right now, and depending on who you're targeting and the age group of people you're targeting, TikTok could be your thing. But this is what is resonating the most with people. Facebook is the biggest at 2.3 billion. Then you've got YouTube, and then you've got Instagram, driven largely by Instagram Reels, their video platform within Instagram. Then you've got LinkedIn, Twitter, and Pinterest. And Pinterest is interesting because It has 175 million, but it is a great way to drive traffic to your back to your website or to your offers. So do not sleep on Pinterest, especially if you're targeting women customers. So now here's what it comes down to. You have to connect, you have to relate, and then you have to engage. You have to lead to your solution. You never should lead with your solution. So always remember that in terms of which comes first, the chicken or the egg. You got to connect, you got to relate, build some rapport, and then you can engage around what your solution is. All right, so let's talk about different kinds of content strategy. Video is really the future of marketing. So if you're afraid of video, get over it. Whip out your phone, record a 15-second video, upload it to Instagram. You'll get the hang of it the more you do it. You just have to literally force yourself to start doing it. Blogs, writing blogs is still effective, but listen, a lot of people are writing content out there. So if you're not going to write really, really specific content, generic content is not going to help you. Long form content or very specific niche content is the way to go with a blog. Podcasts are big. They're still in relatively a small group of people engaging in podcasts. So there's still room for you to get in with a podcast. Certainly, if you have a business that produces beautiful images, if you have a book, quote yourself, create graphics with your own quotes. Certainly, you can give away ebooks. You can do webinars, you can do mini courses, you can do live videos, live Q&As. People love that. And then you can always do product demonstrations. People do want to see people wearing your stuff, using your stuff, show people using your products in action. You can never lose with that. All right, so let's talk about how to leverage social media to join conversations. First thing you got to know is what are the hashtags people are using. And depending on what platform, 3 months ago, it was like you got to use 30 hashtags on Instagram. Well, now you only need to use 3 to 5. So you really have to pay attention to how the hashtags are changing in your industry and on the platforms that you're using. You also want to know what the top keywords are in your industry so that you can track conversations so that you can figure out how to add value. You always want to share relevant content, and it doesn't necessarily have to be content developed by you. When I first got started on Twitter back in 2008, I shared other people's content because I didn't even have a blog for like the first 6 months that I was on the platform. So don't be afraid to share other people's content because that's a great way to make friends. You can certainly answer people's questions. That's another really effective strategy. You want to leave comments on other people's content. Don't just share something, leave a comment and then share it, especially if it's someone whose attention you're trying to get, maybe to be a strategic partner or to do business with you. And then you definitely want to share content about your prospects. If there's a way for you to highlight your customers in your content, you're going to win because everybody loves to see their name in lights. So think about that. The other thing you want to think about is this. 47% of buyers view at least 3 to 5 pieces of content before they contact a sales rep. So that's really important. They're going to Google you and see what kind of thought leadership and what kind of expertise you have out there before they decide to give you a shot to bid for their business. So know that content is important. All right, so let's talk about how to have a great website. Well, you want to make sure that your website is giving people a great first impression. So conduct a site audit. Make sure all your links on your website, especially off of your home page, work. You also want to test your user experience. And that could be as simple as asking 5 to 10 people to go on your website and see if they can break it. And literally, you can offer people a $10 Starbucks gift card in exchange for doing that. So that's information you can get. You also want to make sure that you're checking your lead magnets. I'm a big fan of updating lead magnets like every 6 months. And you certainly want to use your Google Analytics to learn about how people use your website. You want to make sure that you understand what is driving the most referral traffic to you, especially from the social media sites, because that will tell you which social media sites to put more effort into, the ones that are actually driving leads to your website. You also want to understand which content people are engaging with the most and what your bounce rate is. How long are people staying on your site? These are all things you will learn from looking at your Google Analytics, which you should be doing at least monthly. So now let's talk about some of the website metrics you want to look at. Certainly, you want to look at your revenue. How much money does your website make per month? How much does it cost you per lead? What are your traffic sources? Your website traffic to lead ratio? Are people leaving their email addresses when they come to your website, or are they just reading an article and leaving? What is your landing page your landing page conversion rates? And then what is your customer lifetime value? In other words, how much are people spending with you once they start spending with you? That's what you want to understand. And you also want to understand your churn rate. How fast are people leaving your website, and are you keeping your customers and retaining them, or are you, going through customers? That's something you also want to start to track. I already mentioned email earlier, but let's dig into what you need to know to be effective with email. Number one, you've got to focus on your audience. Emails are never about you, they're always about them. You always want to give high value, because you have to give to get. You have to demonstrate your value before people will be willing to part with money to work with you. You also want to watch your calls to action. Every email you send should have one, and it should be clear, concise, and clever, frankly. You don't just want to say, click here. That is not a call to action. You want to say, reserve your spot, something like that. You want to just be, make it interesting. And you certainly want to give it a button, change the color of that button, make it like, hello, click me. That's what you want to do to make somebody want to engage. You also want to track your email metrics, things like your open rates, unsubscribe rates, things like that. And you want to keep your email list clean. If people do not engage with your content over 60, 90 days, I would send them sort of like a warning campaign to be like, hey, I just want to make sure, are we still cool? Do you still want to get emails from me? And if they don't respond, kick them off your list. You want a clean list, and you want your open rates to be high. And if you're still hanging on to people who aren't even opening your emails, you're dragging down your own open rates. You also want to make sure that your email branding aligns with your overall brand. So the same colors and look and feel should be in your emails that's on your website or on your social profiles. And you want to A/B test every element of your emails, whether it's your headline, your images, your call to action, where things are placed inside your emails. You want to test things, because you never know what will resonate with people. And so don't assume, test. All right, when it comes to writing emails, it is really, really important that you understand the difference between copywriting and content development. Content development is really a marketing activity. You are educating, you are entertaining people with your content. When you are developing sales copy, which we call copywriting, you really have to, that's a completely different skill, and it's hard. People who are hardcore content developers tend to sometimes not be really good sales email writers. And there are people who just specialize in writing sales copy. So you want to think about whether or not you want to try to do it yourself, or whether you want to hire someone to help you. But if you are going to do it yourself, here is the format that I want you to think about: problem, agitation, solution. You want to talk about the problem. Then you want to talk about how bad the problem is if it doesn't get solved. Then you want to scoop in there with your solution. That is a sort of like quick and dirty formula for writing great emails. You also want to consider lead magnets. So here is an example of a lead magnet from my website. So This is an actual ebook that you guys can go and download off of my site. It is succeedasyourOwnBoss.com/recession. And this ebook is all about how to recession proof your small business. But you guys, this is also a lead magnet. So when you go to my website and download this, you're going to get on my email list and you're going to get in a nurture sequence. And we're going to send you some emails to introduce you to my brand. And then eventually we're going to tell you about the other products and services that I offer. And you need to set up something just like this for your website. So I want you guys to go right now to succeedasyourOwnBoss.com/recession and download it real quick so that you can see what a quality lead magnet looks like. And this is just an ebook, but it's something of value. Obviously, right now, they're keep talking about how we could teeter on recession at any moment. You want to know how to protect your business from that? Go check out my ebook. All right, I always finish my presentations with an action plan. So I'm going to give you guys a 10-step action plan right now so that you can implement all of this stuff that I've been talking to you about this afternoon. So the first thing is you want to map out your customer's buyer journey. And the customer buyer journey is the 5 steps of selling. So you've got brand awareness, consideration, and consideration is when they're considering you alongside one of your competitors. Then the third step is purchase. After purchase, it's retention. And then after that is advocacy. Now, everybody knows what a purchase is. I don't have to tell you about that, but retention is really, really important because that's how you onboard and engage your new customers in such a way that they want to stay customers. You also want to make sure that you engage them and you recognize your raving fans and you want to turn them into advocates for your brand. So you want to treat them extra special. You want to give them more time with you. And then you want to give them a script to give you reviews, positive reviews, or to refer people. You might even want to create a referral program to reward them for referrals. But this is what you have to think about is how people are going to interact with your brand. What are going to be the different content that you provide at every stage of the customer buyer journey. And then you got to talk to your customers. If you want to know how to serve your customers, you got to talk to them. Ask them not just what's going on now, but what's coming down the pike. What are their care abouts? What are they worried about? How can you help them look like a rock star? That's what you want to know. Or if you sell products, pull together 10, 15 people who bought from you and ask them how you can make your products better. That is a great way to leverage your customers. And if they like you, they'll be happy to give you the feedback. You also want to look at the competition. It doesn't make sense for you to get out here and try to build something if you're not paying attention to what your competitors are doing. And you really should be tracking like your 2 to 3 top competitors. That way you can know how to position yourself against each of them. I would look at their websites. I would look at their social profiles. I would try to get as much information as I could about what they're doing. I would also even use an app, maybe like spyfood.com, where you can go on their website and see if they're buying any ads and you can see what keywords they're buying ads for. You could really get down and dirty with competitive analysis. And I think it is extremely important if you're going to develop a new plan for yourself and for your business. Number 4 is sales versus marketing. Okay, so this is really important because you have to really get clear about what your marketing activities are versus your sales activities. So let's go back to customer journey map for a minute. So brand awareness, marketing. Consideration, marketing. Purchase, that's a sales activity. Asking someone for the business, that is sales. And so you've got to understand the difference because you want to have different content for those different phases. And certainly when you get into retention and advocacy, those are sales functions as well, even though you're going to be using content to nurture those relationships, but that's a sales function because once somebody becomes a customer, you want to keep them as a customer. Why? Because existing customers are 60 to 70% more likely to buy from you again. A new lead is only 5 to 20% likely to do business with you. So where should you focus? Obviously, it is on retention and advocacy because that is where you're going to get recurring revenue in your business. You also want to make sure that you're looking at your analytics, and you're looking at your analytics by social media channel and based upon your website. The cool thing about Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that is you can get really good analytics right on their platforms. Certainly you can buy another tool like, Sprout Social or something like that that'll give you an overall analytics report. But if you just want to go into the back end of Facebook yourself, nobody has better analytics than Facebook. So you want to make sure that you understand who is engaging with your content and who are the people that are looking at you and buying from you. And you also obviously want to look at your Google Analytics on a regular basis so that you can see how people are utilizing your website, what content is most effective, and how long people are staying on your site so that you can figure out ways to keep them on your site longer. That's really important. The next one is you've really got to do an internal resource audit. If you are about to launch a social media initiative, you've got to figure out what kind of headcount do you need to roll things out. Do you have anyone in your business doing social media other than you? I hope you do. But you can also, again, hire a fractional person to help you. A virtual assistant can help you with your social media, even your marketing, even your email or your sales copy. These are all pieces that you can farm out, but you've got to make sure that you know what you need and that you think about it ahead of time before you start making all these plans. Think about your head count and who you have. Do you got any soldiers marching behind you? You've got to figure that out. Or if you need to get you some soldiers, you've got to figure out a job description or just a description that you might go on Indeed or Fiverr or Upwork and go find someone with this skill set that can help you. The next thing you want to think about is marketing automation, and that is email. What kind of sales funnels do you have on your website? Is it time to build some new ones? All of that is about email automation. If you're going to build a new lead magnet, you got to have an email automated sequence underneath of that. You also want to make sure that your whatever email marketing solution that you're using, that it integrates with other tools. So one of the good ones that I like to refer people to is Aweber. Aweber is a great resource. I like it because their free account, which you can use up to 500 email addresses, gives you almost the same functionality as their pro account. Now, there are other email platforms that will give you a free account, but they limit basically your ability to make money from your email. So it's not even worth, everything free isn't worth it. So I really like to suggest Aweber to folks because it's a good beginner to, when you scale up a little bit, they really have some great services and functionality that will help you. And then you got to make sure that any of your new marketing efforts are GDPR compliant. And GDPR is the European law that was put in place a few years ago that regulates email. And what you got to understand, not just email, but just any kind of engagement or even on your website. If you're going to put cookies on people once they go to your website, you've got to give them the choice, and that is a GDPR rule. So you've got to make sure that whatever initiatives you're developing do not get you on the wrong side of the law. And don't think just because we're in the United States that GDPR doesn't apply to us, because people in English speaking countries anywhere probably are all over your website. So we are not immune from this European law by any stretch. And then you've got to think about your budget. It costs money to market. And so you've got to figure out what your monthly budget is going to be for your marketing efforts, for your social media help, for your copywriter that's going to develop your sales emails for you. All of these things cost money. Your email marketing platform, if you have a list above 500, then you're probably not going to want a free solution. You're going to want a pro solution. But again, you've got to think about, you don't want to market with what's left. You want to really prioritize your marketing dollars so that you can stretch them. But you got to think about how much money per month can you set aside to dedicate to marketing, and what is going to be your goal on the other side. I would never create a budget without creating a goal for what you want that budget to generate. So how many leads, how many sales, that kind of stuff. That's the stuff you want to be thinking about as you're thinking about your budget. And then you've just got to create an annual plan. You got to sit down now. I mean, this is October. This is actually the perfect time to be developing your 2022 plan. Unless, of course, you're an online retailer and fourth quarter is Super Bowl for you. Obviously, you're knee deep in getting ready for holiday and trying to get your inventory in. But for those of you that are B2B, look, now is a perfect time for you to develop your annual plan. So just think about what projects, what monthly marketing projects are you going to do every month that's going to make a difference in your business and in your sales results. Because at the end of the day, we do marketing to generate sales. We develop content to generate sales. All of this stuff is about generating revenue for your business. And just think about the pandemic like this. Look at how swords are made, right? They're very hot, and then a blacksmith takes a hammer and beats the daylights out of it. Well, that's what the pandemic did to all of us. So swords are made how business leaders are made. And with that, this is my contact information. I'm a small biz lady on almost all platforms, so I do invite you to connect with me. And if you enjoyed this presentation, hey, give me a recommendation on LinkedIn. I love that. All right, so I will turn it back over and see if we have some questions. I would be super happy to answer any questions. I think we have about 10 minutes or so left, so I will be happy at this point to answer any questions. All right, what do we got? Okay.
It's like that came through, but you can certainly look through the old ones and see if there's any that you might be able to discuss.
Let's see. I'm looking at some of the questions. All right, somebody said a website seems like a huge undertaking and an expensive one as well. I want to know how to do it, on the most economical way possible. Well, if you're thinking about a website, you might want to look at one of the website builders. If you're just building a B2B website, maybe a Wix website could be very effective for you, or maybe one on Squarespace's platform. If you are an e-commerce business, Shopify is kind of hard to beat. So you might want to go over and look at, what options that they have over on Shopify, because they really, during the pandemic, made some really great adjustments to their model. And, anybody can get on with an e-commerce website pretty quickly. And they have an amazing amount of apps and things that work directly within a social media, with their website. So they make it pretty easy to get up and rolling. Buyers are frustrated by agents not returning their calls or not answering their phone. Well, here's the thing. You do want to make sure, if you're going out there and you're inviting people to come by, you really do need good follow-up systems for your business. And one of the follow-up systems that I like to suggest for people is Ruby. Ruby is an amazing service that allows you to have your phone answered by a real person, or they can do live chat assistance as well. So Ruby is definitely a resource so that you don't miss a call and people feel disappointed that they can't reach anyone. And if you're a very small team, that really could be a great asset to you. Someone also asked me about WooCommerce. I like WooCommerce, but actually, like you just said, WooCommerce is not super user friendly. What I like about Shopify is that it's pretty simple to use. So, there's other options as well. I mean, there's BigCommerce also is another great e-commerce platform, but definitely, I would look at all three to see based upon what you're selling, what might work for you. All right, let me see here. What other questions do I have? Okay, someone asked a question about to help businesses reach additional customers through online channels that they aren't currently reaching with their retail storefront. Well, here's the deal with that. No matter what you sell, you've got to be selling online too, because what customers expect now is an omni-channel experience. And basically what that is they want to be able to buy from you wherever they are. That's on their phone, on their desktop, walking into your store. They want to know, can they order something online and come pick it up at your store? So you want to make sure that you integrate your sales processes as much as you can. But if you're a retailer, you have got to figure out how you're going to engage customers online as well. And you need to figure out, again, do you need to be doing all 6 major social media platforms? No, you need to be doing 1 or 2 so that you can drive traffic into your location. And you can do that with pictures, you can do that with coupons, you can do that with some kind of special that you're doing, but you've got to figure out how you're going to attract people online to want to come check you out in person. All right, somebody said, my clients are hurting or stuck and want hope, confidence, focus, and tools to move forward. Well, honestly, I that's my life's work is what you just described. So anyone that's looking for tools and information broken down in actionable bite-sized chunks, please head over to my blog, succeedasYourOwnBoss.com. All we do over there is give people inspiration, hope, tools, books to read, and actionable advice that they can go use to execute in their business right away. So again, it is succeedasYourOwnBoss.com. And if you're looking for training tools, certainly there's a lot out there, but my Small Biz Lady University is one, and I have 3 6-week online courses all about online selling. The first one is how to sell and market online. The second one is Ultimate Guide to Email Marketing. And the third one is Social Media Selling. So if you're interested in a deep dive on any of that stuff, head on over to smallbizladyuniversity.com. I got you. Trust me. Um, I see here's another question. Starting my own online web development and social media business. Well, that's great because I think there's plenty of people who need that service. People need great websites. You should probably be updating your website every 18 months. And so hopefully that means you're going to have lots of business, and certainly everybody's got to figure out how to do this social media thing in a way that works for them. So I think starting a online business doing websites and social media, that is a great business to start. I am here today courtesy of the good folks at the B to SMB Institute and Dave Walker and his team, and this conference has just been tremendous, and so I'm so excited that I had the opportunity to be here with you guys today.
Again, Melinda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're so very welcome. I was happy to be here.